Alright, hi, United States of America, legally binding, document name API 6A, specification wellhead and Christmas tree equipment, CFR, Code for the Regulations, Section 30, 258.06A3, Standards American Petroleum Body Institute. Applicability, Certificate Edition, Product Specification Levels. 1. 2. Normative references. 3. Terms and definitions approved. Terms and definition approved terms. Abbreviated terms. 4. Design, performance, general requirements, general certification, design method, miscellaneous, design information, design documentation, design review, design verification, materials, general requirements, general written specification, manual, tubing, casing, base, bodies, bayonet, outlet connections, ring gaskets, test coupons, qualification, test coupons, heating tray, equipment qualification, material qualification, bull plugs, valve removal plugs, back pressure valves, pressure boundary, penetrations, wear bushings, hub ended connectors, welding, general requirements, general non-pressure containing weldments other than weld overlays, PSL 1 and 2, PSL 3. Pressure containing fabrication weldments for bodies, bonds, and outlet connections, plug plugs, ball plugs, valve removal plugs, back pressure valves, pressure containing repair weldments, bodies, bonds, and outlet connections, ball plugs, valve removal plugs, back pressure valves, weld overload, corrosion resistant and or hard facing other materials for the property controls. 7. Quality control, general measuring, testing equipment, general quality control, personnel qualifications, personnel control requirements, general quality control required, records requirement, equipment marking requirements, well-headed, equipment connectors, fittings, casing, tubing, hangers, valves, chokes, loose connectors, flange head, other end conductors, welded, other equipment, studs, nuts, Christmas trees, valve removal plugs, bull plugs, back pressure valves, shoring and shipping, draining and testing, draining after testing, rust prevention, sealing, surface protection, assembly, maintenance, and instruction, ring gasket, age control, non-metallic materials. 10. Equipment specification requirements, flange end outlet connection, thread end outlet connection, studded nuts, ring gasket, valves, casing and tubing heads, casing and tubing hangers, tube head adapters, chokes, teeth and crosses, test gauge connections, 1035 MPa, million pascals to 138 pascals or 15,000 psi to 220,000 psi, fluid sample device, Christmas tree, crossovers, connectors, adapters, spools, actuator, lock screws, alignment pins, retaining screws, packing mechanism, other end connectors or OECs, top connectors, surface water safety valves, actuators, offshore, surface bull plugs, valve removal plugs, other pressure boundary, penetration, back pressure valves. Purchasing guidelines, U.S. customer unit table of data, internal standards. And these are appendixes, and we'll start out with paragraph chapter 1. After the four words, introduction. Alright, petroleum, natural gas industries, drilling and production equipment, the well-headed Christmas tree equipment scope, the purpose of the international standards, specifies requirement given the recommendation, performance, dimensional with a functional, interchangeable design, material with the testing, inspection, welding, marking, handling, storage, shipment, purchasing, repair, manufacturing, well-headed Christmas tree equipment for use for the petroleum, natural gas industry. International standards do not apply for the field testing, field repair, welded Christmas tree equipment. Applicability to international standards applicable to the following specific equipment: welded head equipment, casing, heading, housing, casing head spools, tubing head spools, crossover spools, multiple stage head housings and spools, connector fittings, crossover connectors, tube heading adapters, top connectors, T's and crosses, fluid sample devices, adapters, spacers and spools, casing, tube and hangers, mandrel hangers and slip hangers, valves and chokes, single valve, multiple valves, actuated valves, valves prepared for actuator, check valve, chokes, surface and underwater safety valves, actuator, back pressure valves, loose connection, flange, threaded, other end connectors and welded, weld neck connectors, blind connectors, threaded connectors, adapter spacer connectors, bowl plugs, valve removal plugs, other equipment actuators, hubs, pressure boundary, penetrations, ring gasket, running, testing tools, Annex H, wearing bushing and Annex H, nomenclature used the international standards for the typical equipment shown in Figure 1 and 2, all parts whose physical dimension conform with the metric tables incorporated with the body of the international standards or the U.S. customary unit tables. levels, and Appendix B or App will see this introduction. 1.3 Surface condition. International standards define surface condition with a term of the pressure, temperature, material class for the wellbore constitutes operation conditions. 1.4 Product specification levels, or PSL. International standards establish requirements of 5 product specification levels. These 5 product specification level designations define different level technical quality requirements. Of Annex A provides guidelines, not requirements, for selecting acceptable product specification levels. And it shows the different pictures. The key back 1 back pressure valve penetration, surface safety valve control line, 3 subsurface safety valve control line outlet, tube heading and adapter, 4 5 lock screw, 5 6 tube hanger back off, 7 extended hook, suspended neck, tubing hanger with a downhole, safety valve control line, 8 studded side outlet valve removal penetration, 10 bottom casing back pack off, tube heading spool with 11, 12 double stirred adapter annular casing parts off, casing hanger slip slit style, threaded outlet connector, bull plug casing head housing, surface casing, welded head support pipe, tubing packing off start retainer, tubing hanger slip style, and tubing. Typical welded head assembly nomenclature. Shows 23 subside outlet connection, extended neck hanger seal 25, annular tubing hanger seal 16, tuber hanger mandrel, flange outlet connection 26, tube casing angular mandrel casing head spool 29, inner casing 30, intermedial casing 31, flange connection 32, tube hanger remandrel seals 32, 3 wraparound hanger pack off 34 typical with weld head assembly nomenclature. Alright, shows the Christmas tree, 1 gauge valve bonnet, nut, blanking plug, body connector, top connector, swab, crown valve, T-wing valve, choke, master valve, tube heading, adapter, typical Christmas tree nomenclature. Shows 3 valves and a T, Christmas tree, and then your valve 1 would be your gauge valve. Alright, 2 normative references. We'll read this as part of 1 because 1 was small. Following reference document is indispensable. The application for the document rated references only. Addition cited apply for the undated reference list of the addition reference document. Include any of the amendments apply. International Standards Organization 22859 1 1999 sample for products inspection attributed to Part 1 sampling schemes indexed by acceptance quality limited and lot by lot inspection. ISO 104-14-1 Petroleum Natural Gas Industry Field Testing Drilling Fluids Part 1 Water-Based Fluids ISO 104-22-1993 Petroleum Natural Gas Industry Thread Engaging Thread Inspection Casing Tubing Line Pipe Threads and Specification ISO 11960 Petroleum Natural Gas Industry Steel Pipes used for casing for tube wells ISO 1353-3 Petroleum Natural Gas Drilling Production Equipment Drilling through Equipment ISO 1362-8 4 Petroleum Natural Gas Industry Design Operation Subsea Production System Part 4 Subsea Wellhead Tree Equipment ISO 1367-8 Petroleum Natural Gas Industry Evaluation Testing Threading Compounds used with casing, tubing, and line piping API Spec 7 1997 the Specification Rotary Drill System STEM Elements American Petroleum Institute Recommended Practice 14F Recommended Practice for the Design and Installation Electrical System Fixed Floating Offshore Petroleum Products Facilities Undiscovered Classified Class 1 Division 1 Division and Division 2 locations American Society of Mechanical Engineers B11 Unified Inch Screw Threads B12 Gauges and Gauging Unified Inch Screw Threads B121 Pipe Threads General Purpose and Inch American Society of Petroleum, American Society of Mechanical Engineer, Boiler Pressure Code, Vessel Codes 1998, Section 5, Non-Destructive Examination, Boiler Pressure Rules 1998, Section 8, Division 1 Rules of Construction Pressure Vessels, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, Boiler Pressure Vessel Code 1998, Section 8, Division 2 Alternative Rules of Construction Pressure Vessels, Boiler Pressure Vessel Code 1998, Section 9 Welding Brazing Qualification, ASNT, SNT, TC1, Personal Qualification Certification, Non-Destructive Testing, American Site Testing Materials, A193, A193M, Standard specification alloy steel and stainless steel bolting materials for high temperature services. And they should ASTM A194A, 194M, standard specification carbon alloy steel nuts, bolts, high pressure and high temperature surface or both. ASTM A320 and 320M, standard specification alloy steel, stainless steel bolting materials for low temperature surfaces. ASTM A370, standard method for the definition mechanical testing steel products. AM 388. A and M, standard practice light ultrasonic examination, heavy steel forging. ASTM A453, 453M, standard specification high temperature bolting materials, expansion coefficients comparable synthetic stainless steels. 703M, standard specification steel casing, general requirements for pressure containing parts. ASTM D395, standard testing method, rubber property comparison suppression set. D412, standard test of vulcanized rubber and thermoplastic elastomers tension. 471, standard test method of rubber property of effective liquids. 1414, standard methods of rubber ring O-rings. 1415, standard tests of rubber property internal and national hardness. 1418, standard practice rubber lattices nomenclature. 2240, standard test of rubber property durometer hardness. E10, standard test method Brenner hardness materials. E18, standard test method of Rockwell hardness, Rockwell superficial hardness of the metallic materials. E92, standard test method Vickers hardness metallic materials. E94, standard guided radiographic examination. E140, standard hardness conversion table of metals relationships among Brenner hardness, Vickers hardness, Rockwell hardness, superficial hardness, Knoops hardness, and scleroscope hardness. E165, standard method of liquid penetration examination. E428, standard practice fabrication control, steel reference blocks used in ultrasonic examination. E709, standard guides of magnetic particle examination. E747, standard practice design, manufacture, material grouping, classification, wire, image, quality indicators used, radiology. EN 473, non-destructive testing, qualification, certification, non-destructive testing, personnel, general principles. MSS SP55, quality standard steel casing, valve, flanges, fittings, and other piping components, visual method of evaluation, surface irregularities. NASCE MRO 0175, 1999, standard material requirements, sulfide, stress cracking, resistant materials for out oil field equipment. The Society of American Engineers, AS568A, 1974, aerospace size, standard O for O-rings. And we'll continue to read terms and definition, abbreviated terms and definition. For the purpose of the document, the following terms and definition apply. Acceptance criteria define limited place criteria of material products on surfaces accessible, weld and wetted surface which can be viewed for the purpose of a non-destructive examination, direct line of sight. Note these exclude test ports, control line ports, lockdown, screw holes, other penetration of these types. Actuator mechanism of the remote automatic operation of valve or choke, adapter pressure containing per piece of the equipment that have a connection with a different nominal size or pressure ratings. You connect other pieces of the equipment at different nominal size with the annular pressure ratings. Annular pack off the mechanism of the shoe with the annular pressure between the outside diameter of the suspended tubular member or the hanger inside of the diameter head and spool of the tubular member passes or hanger is suspended as ship condition of the product equipment was ready to ship. Back pressure valve, unidirectional, bidirectional check valve is installed through the Christmas tree into a tubing hanger and prevents weld fluids from flowing out of the weld body. Any portion of the wellhead Christmas tree equipment between the connections with or without internal parts will contain the well bore pressure bolting closure thread fastener. You assemble the well bore pressure containing parts in or joint in outlet connections. Exposed bolting. Bolting is exposed directly in a sour environment that is buried insulated equipment flange protectors. Otherwise denied direct atmospheric pressure. Non-exposed bolting. Bolting is not directly exposed to sour elements or environments and is not intended for the buried insulated but equipped with the flange protectors, otherwise denied direct atmospheric pressure. Bonded pressure containing closure of the body other than the end of the outlet connection. Bottom casing pack off mechanism seal with the annular pressure between the outside of the diameter suspended tubular member or hanger inside diameter of the spool tube heading and adapter placed over the suspended tubular hanger. Pull plug pressure containing closure of the female threaded end outlet connection which may have the internal counter bore and test port calibration compression and adjustment standard known accuracy. Carbon steel alloy carbon iron containing maximum 2% carbon mass fraction, 1.65% magnesium mass mass fraction residual qualities are the elements except for the intentionally added specific quantity of the deoxidization used silicone and or aluminum casing. Pipe run surface intended the line of the wall of the drilled hole, casing, hanger, mandrel means mechanism used to support the casing string and casing head means male and female threaded attached to the casing sling, slip ties casing hanger mechanism used to support the casing string and the casing head, gripping the pipe with the welded wedge type members, casing head housing, equipment attached to the uppermost end of the strip of the casing with the strip of the suspend or seal of the casing string, casing head spool, equipment attached with another casing head with the strip of the suspend, seal, or secondary casing string casting, noun, object near finished shape to obtain solidification or fluid in substance of a mold. No HIP components are not considered to be casting. Chemical analysis, determination of chemical composition of the material, choke, equipment used to restrict the control of the flow of fluid, choke bean, flow and bean, replaceable orifice part used for the pod of the chokes and control flow rate, choke trim, pressure controlling choke component including choke beans are used to control and regulate the flow of fluids. Note one-piece systems in the segment multi-piece systems that pass through the pressure boundary are pressure containing components. Christmas tree. Assembly of equipment including tube head and adapters, valve tees, crosses, and top connectors, chokes attached to the uppermost connection with a tube heading used to control weld production. Conformance, compliance with specified requirements. Loose connector is manufactured not intended but made integral with another piece of the welded or Christmas tree equipment. No example, there are blind, threaded spacer, welded neck flange, studded, or other loose connections. 3. Corrosion-resistant alloy or CRA, non-ferrous base alloy in which one of the some specified amount of elements, titanium, nickel, cobalt, chromium, molybdenum, exceeds 50% mass fraction.
Do you want me to make you any tacos?
No, I'm alright. I'm alright.
You sure? What else are you going to eat today?
I'm alright. Corrosion-resistant ring grooves lined with a metal-resistant metal loss of controls over the air, corrosion-resistant alloy or an all-synthetic stainless steel. Cross press containing fitting with a minimum of 4 openings. Crossover connector adapted with a restricted area sealing, meaning with the top connection pressure relating and above with the lower connection. Crossover flange, double single stud with an adapter flange, restricted area sealing, means with the top connector pressure rating above with the lower connection. Crossover spools, flange, or other connection equipment with restricted area sealing, means by a near face with the lower flange. No crossover spools are provided suitable, meaning with the suspend seal around with the inner string with the casing with a tubing to crossover the spool with the top connection pressure rating above the lower connection. Date of the manufacturer's final acceptance finished equipment. The date of the repair manufacturer, date of the repair manufacturer, final acceptance finished equipment. Dynamic seal in which the motion exits relative to the surface of the after installation. And connection, outlet connection, integral male or female threaded tube end connector flange, studded, threaded, thoroughly bolted. Any other means used to join together equipment that contains the control pressure equipment. Any item assembled equipment is into which its international standards applicable. The equivalent round or ER standard for the comparable to various shapes of section for the round bar determined to respond with the hardening characteristics, heat treating, low alloy, more synthetic corrosion resistant steel. Fit the geometric relation between parts. Note that this includes the tolerance criteria used during the design of a part and mating a part. Flange, protruding rim which holds the acceptable bolts having sealing mechanism used to join pressure containing equipment to the dimensions specified by the international standards. Blind flange with no center board, used to close off with a completely flange end with the outlet connection. Loose flange as manufactured not intended but made integral with the equipment component with the international standard. The type of the flange conclude with the blind threaded spacer welded neck stud, other connected adapter thread. Threaded flange having sealing face on one side, female thread on the other for purpose of the joining flange connection. 2 threaded connections. Weld the neck, flange of the neck with the side opposite with the sealing face prepared with the bevel to weld. Corresponding pipe of the transition pieces. Forging, noun. Shaped metal part formed by forging method. Forge, verb. Deform metal plastically into desired shapes with compressive force. Note, forging usually a hot process uses dyes as optional. Form, essential shape of the productive included with the components of the part. Function, operation product during service of gauge and testing of the port connection. Hole drill with the tap of the wellhead. Christmas tree equipment through which internal pressure may be measured throughout with which the pressure may be applied to test the sealing sealing mechanism, mandrel, hanger mandrel, portion of the casing tube hanger was attached on the thread connection with the tubular strings and with the forms of the upper end of the tubular string. Heat affected zone, portion of base metal which has not been melted but with the wheel whose mechanical property of the microstructure has been altered by heating, welding, or cutting. Heat cast Latin material originating from a final melt. From remelted alloys, heat is raw material originating from a single remelted ingot. High sensitivity lock open device installed with the service safety valve with the actuator of the service safety valve that has a full open position until exposed sufficient heat causes the device to release, allows the surface safety valve to close. Heat treat lock batch furnishes materials placed on the loading and carrying devices move the batch from one heat treat cycle. Heat treat lock continues furnishes groups or pieces of the material with the same nominal size with the move subsequently through the heat treatment processing, same process parameters. Heat treating alternating step of the control, the heating and the cooling of the material for the purpose of changing physical or mechanical properties. How period of time product is subject to the pressure isolated with a pressure source, hot isostatic pressing or HIP, special forming process used with a compact metallurgic bond metal powder. Note this process takes place in flexible metal container which contains the formed in the desired shape by the subject. Heating the container with a high temperature pressure in an autoclave with producing a full wrought structure. Hot work to form metal plasticity at temperature above the recrystallization temperature. Hub, protruding rim and externally angled shoulder and sealing mechanisms used with the joint pressure containing the equipment, the joint lot, and the traceability able the parts to be traced originating with the job. Lot which identifies included heats and liner indication surface of the non-destructive equipment. Indication whose length of the equal to or greater than 3 times its width. Lock screw and connection used to lock down the hangers and energize seals. Low alloy seals containing less than 5% mass fraction total alloying elements but more than specified with the carbon steel. No seals with less than 11% chromium mass fraction included in this category. Make and break verb, connecting, disconnecting, connection, manufacturing, operation, acting involved but not limited to machining, welding, heat treating, other processes utilized to produce finished product, material performance basis, capabilities used with the mass speed test demonstrated as a minimum material satisfy the criteria of the international standards. Multi-stage crossover spool. Flange other connected equipment more than the restricted area. Sealing means for the provide suitable for the capability to suspend seal around multiple inner strings of casing tubing in several stages. Note multi-stage crossover spools may have the top connector pressure rating of the lower connector. Objective evidence. Documented field experience with test data publication finite element analysis of the calculation verified performance characteristics applicable. Part individual piece used with the assembly with a single equipment units, example the body, bonnet, gauge stud, the hand wheel, etc. Part of the valve with its main part may also be a piece not finished form. Post welded heat treatment. Any heat treatment is subsequent to welding includes stress relief. Pressure boundary penetration device that penetrates directly into or communicates with weld bore is not defined with elsewhere in this internal national standards. Sample the grease sealant, injection fitting, check valve, control tester, gauge port, plug filled, needle valve on test, gauge inner injection port, electrical and control line penetration, pressure containing part which whose failure to function is intended to result in the release of retained fluid into the atmosphere. Example the body, bonnets, and stems. Pressure control part intended with the control regulated with the movements of the pressure fields. Example the valve, bore, sealing mechanism, choke, trim, and hangers. Pressure integrity, structural leak resistant capability to product containing applied pressure vessel quality, metallic material specified with the pressure containing pressure control parts conforming with the applicable product specification and level of requirement. Primary equipment, the piece of the equipment that cannot normally be isolated, well fluid or well pressure. Qualified personal individual characteristics, ability gained through the training experience of both measured against establishment required to manufacture purchase for the international standard relating rated work pressure. Maximum internal pressure for the equipment designed to contain and or control working pressure is not to be confused with the test pressure. Records retrievable information, relevant indication, serve with the non-destructive examination, indication of major dimension greater than 1.6 1/16th of an inch. No inherent indications not associated with the scrub surface rupture considered non-relevant. Example, magnetic parameters, variation on metallic stringers, remanufacture, activity involving disassembly, reassembly, testing, welded head, Christmas tree, equipment with or without the replacement parts. When machining, welding, heat treating, or other machining manufacturer operations are employed. No remanufacture does not include the replacement of bodies. Repair activity involved with assembly, reassembly, testing, welded, Christmas tree equipment with or without replacement parts. Note, repair does not include machining, welding, heating, treating, other machine manufacturer operation, and replacement of the bodies. Repair level which equipment will be repaired and manufactured compliant with the international standards. Repair and manufacturing principal agent with the repair manufacturer welded Christmas tree equipment who chose to be in compliance with the international standards. Replacement parts either the manufacturer or manufacturer. Piece of equipment that meets the welded Christmas tree requirements for the applicable repair or remanufacture level. Restricted area sealing meanings restricted area pack off with the other device with the isolated area with a high pressure for the one lower pressure note. Device for the limited pressure reduce the loads on the connector area with a lost pressure rating and also must be sealed with enclosed the pressure containment area small with adjacent ring gasket and connector sealed retaining fluid actual fluid produced by weld injected into the well. Room temperature between 4 degrees Celsius and 50 degrees Celsius or 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Round indication, surface non-destructive examination indication, circular elliptical having length less than 3 times the width. Running tools used for the run and retrieve position, connecting welded equipment remove. Leave from the drill floor. Secondary equipment, a piece of equipment normally isolated with a weld fluid and weld pressure serialization. Assign a unique code to individual parts or pieces of equipment to maintain records. Spacer pressure containing piece of equipment used to connect provide separation between other parts or pieces of the equipment. Specified material meeting particular performance requirements of specified manufacturer and industry standards. Stainless steel that contain more than 11% chromium mass fraction rendered steel corrosion resistant. Other elements may be added to secure special property. Static seal which no motion exists relative to the sealing surface after installation. Stress corrosion cracking which result of the combination of corrosion and stress relief controlled heating of the material predetermined temperature for the purpose of reducing any residual stress after welding. Studded flange connection, flange edge outlet connection, threaded anchor stud screws, taped holes, replace holes for bolted studs. Substantial change identified manufacturer which affect the performance of the product intended service. Sulfide stress cracking metallic materials due to exposure to fluid containing a hydrogen sulfide. Surface safety valve or SSV, automatic weld head valve assembly which closes upon loss of power supply. When used in the international standard, TUMA is understood as the SSV valve or safety valve. Surface safety valve actuator, safety valve actuator, underwater safety valve actuator, underwater valve safety actuator. Device uses surface system safety valve and underwater safety valve. Open power supplies to close automatically when the power is lost or released. Here's surface safety valve, underwater safety valve. Portions of surface safety valve, underwater safety valve contains well stream and shut off the flow when closed. T pressure containing fitting with 3 openings. Don't do open opposite one over the other. Another form of the run portion of the T and opening at a 90 degree to line of the run. The T's may be equipped with thread flanges, studs, and other end connectors. Test tool. The tool used to run into the wellhead in order to perform a pressure test. Top connector, bottom hole test is after. Uppermost fitting of the Christmas tree, which allow the full bore action of the Christmas tree, clean threaded protective of the cap, inch of the protective threads of the seal during handling, transportation, storage, pipe placed with the well conductive fluid with the well producing formation on the Christmas tree with the deductible kill or treatment fluids in the well. Note that the tubing is distinguished in the casing by retrievable during the life of the weld. Tubing hanger mandrel to mechanism used to support the tubing string and the tubing head mains of the male or female threaded attached to the tube heading adapter equipment which adapt the uppermost connection of the tube heading and the lowermost valve of the Christmas tree. Tube heading spool with a piece of equipment attached with the uppermost casing head with the smallest casing string with a strip of the suspend tubing and seal of the annular space between the tubing and casing. Underwater safety valve, automatic valve assembly installed with the underwater wellhead location which will close upon loss of power supply. Note when used in international standards the term understood that a USV valve is a USV and a USV actuator. Valve bore sealing mechanisms, internal valve parts which close off the flow through the valve port. Examples: gate, ball plugs, poppets, flappers, other respective seats. Check valve that permits fluid flow freely in one direction. Contain mechanism to automatically prevent the flow in the other direction. Full bore valve which closes the mechanism. See the same bore dimension of the valve body. Gate valve assembly with the gate open with the body with a 90 degree to the continuity to affect the closure of master valve, lowermost valve with a vertical bore with the Christmas tree. Note is you with the complete and shut the well. Plug valve, valve assumably plugged permanently, manually carved with continuity, is rotated 90 degrees effective disclosure. Example plugs may be straight, tapered, ball, etc. Reduce opening valve with the valve with either regular venturi type opening, either circular or non-circular through the closure mechanism. Swab valve or crown valve, uppermost valve with a vertical bore with the Christmas tree above the flow line outlet. Venturi valve with the valve reduce opening with the transformation of the flow opening and the reduced closure area is well streamlined to reduce pressure loss. Wing valve, valve located down the Christmas tree but not in the vertical run, which can be used with the shelf with the well flow valve remove plug. Threaded plug can be installed with the welded head and enable the gate valve removal under pressure. Visual examination parts equipment, the visual defects of the material and workmanship. Volumetric non-destructive examination, volumetric non-destructive examination of internal material defects method, radiograph and ultrasonic testing, wearing brush, retrievable cylindrical device which protects the internal surface of the wellhead, equipment the top of the glass casing suspended, fabrication weld, welding joint two or more parts, non-pressure containing weld that is absence that does not reduce pressure containing integrity of the part. Pressure containing weld that has absent reduce the pressure containing integrity of the part. Welded groove areas between the two metals which have been joined and have been prepared to receive welder filler metal. Welded joint. Fitting together components in order to facilitate joining by welding, fusing materials with or without adding filler materials. Welded head. All permanent equipment between the uppermost portion of the surface of the casing and the tubing head adapter connection. Wet surface, any surface which has contact with the pressurized weld fluid, either by design or because of internal seal leaks. Raw products shaped by means of forging a hot isostatic pressing. Raw structure that contains no cast dendritic elements. Yield strength level measured at room temperature, which material plastically deformed will not return to its original dimension when the load is released. Not all yield strengths specified in the internal strength international standards are less than 0.2% yield than offset set strength in accordance with the ASTM A370. 32 abbreviated terms for the purpose of the international standard. The following terms are applied. AQL, acceptable quality level, CRA, corrosion resistant alloy, DAC, distant amplitude curve, ER, equivalent round, FEA, finite element analysis, HAZ, heat affected zone, HBW, Brenner hardness, HIP, high isostatic pressure, HRB, Rocknell hardness scale B, HRC, Rocknell hardness scale C, NDE, non-destructive examination, NPT, national pipe thread, OEEC, other in connection, OEM, original equipment manufacturer, PQR, procedure qualification record, PR, performance requirements, PSL, production specification level, QTC, qualification test coupon, RMS, root mean squared, RL, repair manufacturer level, root RM, ultimate tensile strength, ROE, radius of exposure, SSV, surface safety valve, TC, test coupon, UNS, unified numbering system, USV, underwater safety valve, WPQ, welder performance qualification, WPS, welder performance procedure specification. Chapter 4, design performance and general requirements.